Alright, I was wrong about Tiana's Bayou adventure. But not entirely. Let me explain. Recently, I talked about how Tiana's Bayou adventure is setting up to be Disney's biggest failure. While that is quite the claim and we didn't know much of the ride at that time, we now have official story details and we can get a closer look at some scenes from inside the attractions along with the few animatronics. Now that we have these details, I feel that I need to clarify some of the claims I made in my last video, along with admitting that I was wrong about certain aspects of this attraction. So let's dive in. To quickly sum it up, Tiana's Bayou Adventure will be the newest ride to open up at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom, the most visited theme park in the entire world in the summer of this year. This ride used to be an attraction named Splash Mountain that operated at the park for 30 years before it closed back in January of 2023 to begin this transformation. So let's start off with the good. I'll admit right here, I was wrong about these animatronics. This is the first time really since Navi River Journey. Yes, Rise of the Resistance and Runaway Railway had some new animatronics, but they were nowhere near as impressive as this, or the one in Navi River Journey. These animatronics are just stunning. The movement on them is flawless, the sequences seem to have some impressive dialogue elements, and overall, it will enhance the ride heavily. Now another thing I'm happy to see is we got our very first picture from the inside of this attraction. It shows these 4 frogs sitting on a log in the bayou. Now what made me happy with this picture was all the luscious greenery surrounding them. Meaning, and hopefully this is the case, that a majority of this ride will look like this picture, with the crazy luscious greenery surrounding a swampy setting. If that is the case, then I will be a lot more satisfied with this attraction. Now, we can almost guarantee though that screens and projection mapping will play a strong element in this attraction, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Rides have executed this flawlessly. It's just a matter of how many screens you use and of course, the execution of said screens and projection mapping. If it's done well, if it works, what's happening around you at the moment is incredible. However, if it's forced, because you didn't want to spend the money to put something real, that's when it becomes an issue. But this picture alone gave me hope. I was just happy to see that background and see that they are keeping a lot of this setting, because that's one thing I always admired with Splash Mountain versus other attractions. It was the fact that every inch of that ride had something to see, even the ceiling, and all of it was real. None of it was forced, none of it was screen based, it was all real. And I'm really hoping that transfers over to this attraction as well. And from this picture, it looks like that might be the case, which makes me feel a lot better. The one thing that does worry me is why is Disney making such a big spectacle over 4 little statues and giving each of those characters background stories? I love seeing storylines, I love seeing all of these things. Again, I just find it a little weird that Disney's going all out on these 4 little frog statues. Because, what's the rest of the ride going to feature now if this is supposed to be a highlight? Just something to think about. I know Disney could be sharing this because it was the first photo from insides of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. That is a really big deal. That is really cool to see. But just a little odd that they're putting so much focus on 4 statues that are maybe a foot tall. So in my last video, there were 2 things I said that I was wrong about, and one of them was the theme, which I will completely take back. This is looking a lot better than I thought. Obviously, we can't judge the whole interior of this ride from this one photo, but with the animatronics, the snapshot, and all of the teasing we've seen, it's looking a lot more promising. Now, one thing I can't say the same for is that exterior. When you look at the original concept art they released when they announced the ride, versus what we got, it's sad. When we saw the new concept art, we knew it was a downgrade. We clearly saw budget cuts are being made, but even comparing this new exterior to Splash Mountain, personally, I think Splash Mountain looked so much better between the briar patch, the clay rocks, and of course the log sitting atop of the mountain. It looked a lot better than this fake looking flowery mine cave thing that this ride was looking to achieve. It just doesn't work, especially with the Frontierland theme. Now, if they turn this into a New Orleans square like Disneyland, it would make a little more sense. But with Big Thunder Mountain being right next door and the Walt Disney World Railroad being attached to it, it just looks out of place. And I really hope they don't touch Frontierland, that's an icon. But suddenly now you have this dry, rocky desert with the runaway mine train, and right next to it you have this flowery mountain. It just doesn't blend well. It looks like 2 polar opposites sitting right next to each other. But obviously we're here to look at the ride itself, and that is what matters the most. So the second issue I talked about in my last video was the story. And now we do know what is going to be happening within this attraction. So we already knew about the queue line theming during our last video. To quote exactly what Disney said, within this attraction queue, guests will discover that she continues to grow her business with Tiana's Foods, an employee-owned cooperative. Combining her talents with those of the local community, Tiana has transformed an aging salt mine and built a beloved brand. The endeavor began when Tiana purchased the salt mine and the area surrounding the large salt dome it operated from. With the help of her mother Eudora, Naveen, and Luis, and fellow owners of the cooperative, Tiana revived the old salt mine and the surrounding land, growing a wide array of vegetables, herbs, and spices for her recipes. This multifaceted enterprise has turned the aging salt mine into a space that has come alive, complete with the boutique farm and both a working and teaching kitchen. Tiana's Foods is where Tiana and her colleagues create all sorts of new products that they are bringing the world, including a line of original hot sauces. Now with the ride theme. This is what we predicted in our last video from what we knew at that time. You enter the world of Princess and the Frog right after the movie ended. Tiana decided to grow her business and build her dream restaurant, Tiana's Palace. You enter an old salt mine which Tiana has completely refurbished into a garden where she now grows all her herbs and vegetables. She wants to give a big thanks to her family for helping her with the project, so she throws them a huge party, which will also be a Mardi Gras celebration for the town to coincide with her and Luis now being together after all their trouble. You gotta help out Tiana, bring in and prepare all the food for the party, and that's all we have. So now, Disney has officially shared, Tiana wants to give a big thanks to her family and friends and the entire community for all the support they've given her by throwing an amazing party during the Mardi Gras season. When it turns out, there's been a bit of a mix-up with the party preparations, so Tiana invites us to meet her at Tiana's Foods to help with the missing ingredient for the party. When we arrive, we may see that Tiana spruced up the company's facilities with vibrant art from local artists. Food for the party is being prepared and beignets are being loaded into crates for the celebration. All kinds of preparations are underway for the journey into the Bayou with Tiana, along with new and familiar friends from the animated film. Picking up right where the story left off, Tiana continues bringing people together with Tiana's Foods, another treasury meeting place to spend time together and celebrate a diverse community. Tiana is also working with cooperative members to teach gardening and cooking to children of all ages, and inspiring other women to run successful businesses as the brand grows nationwide. So we weren't wrong. The ride is essentially a search for a missing ingredient in a salt mine turned farm. When you have a total of 6.5 minutes worth of indoor section to cover in a capsulating story. To give an idea, that would be like adding an extra minute and a half to the entire Rise of the Resistance attraction, or riding Cosmic Rewind station to station twice in a row and still having 30 seconds left to spare. That's a long time for an attraction, especially with the one that is shaping up to have a boring story. Another big thing to look at, and I can't confirm this because truth is, we don't know. With what we've seen from the concept art, animatronic reveals, and storyline, the main villain from the Princess and the Frog movie, Dr. Facilier, will not be included in the ride at all. So no voodoo section, there really won't be any reference to him throughout the ride, and this is sad because they could use him to build up towards the big drop at the end. It would be perfect, but right now I really don't know how that big drop finale is going to fit in within the storyline. So it'll be very interesting to see how that turns out. So now one more thing I wanted to clarify. Will Tiana's Bayou Adventure be Disney's biggest failure? No. Because one, the log flume layout is enough to make it a good ride, the IP is iconic, so it'll obviously draw in crowds and families, the ride will definitely have its fans. I just think of two things with this ride. One, it probably won't be as good as Splash Mountain, just because of the story that ride told and the music within this attraction. Not saying Tiana's won't have good music, Dig a Little Deeper and Almost There are phenomenal, but personally, and I know other people would agree with me, Zippity Doo Dah and Everybody's Got a Laughing Place and How Do You Do, just playing around that area, waiting in the queue and throughout that ride, that will always take the cake in my opinion. And two, it's like I said earlier, this is Disney's ride that's supposed to compete with Epic Universe, because after this, Disney doesn't really have any major plans for 2025 other than Test Track 3.0, and that may or may not open in 2025 and might get pushed to 2026. So when you're looking at all of Epic Universe versus Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I think we know what's gonna win. I think the biggest question is, will this ride be more popular than Splash Mountain? Obviously, Splash Mountain and Tiana's were capacity monsters with insanely high throughput, and that'll be really nice to get back at the Magic Kingdom. But will the wait times be higher or lower after the opening hype fades? That time will only tell. So yeah, is Tiana's a failure for Disney? No. But will it also be one of the greatest Disney rides ever made? I personally don't think so. Will it be strong competition for Epic Universe? Definitely not. But we will have to wait and see what this ride will really have to offer when it opens up in the summer of this year. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you haven't already yet, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, as that is the best way to support us here, and to ensure you won't miss our next video covering Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And don't forget to also check out our second channel, TPH Productions, for high quality POVs and off-rides. As always, this is Hunt from Theme Park Hunting. I'll see you guys later, and follow the thrill.